Okay, before we get going with lesson 15.4, I would pause. I would copy down these reminders that I'm going to talk about with you. And then once you're done copying it, push play. And you can listen to the explanation instead of trying to copy it all while I talk. Okay, so the goal of today's lesson is to solve percent problems, not using a ratio table, not using a proportion, but now we're gonna use equations. So here are some things that you already know, or most of it you should know, but we need to make sure that we remember it. So the word is will translate into an equal sign. When it says what number, that tells us we have to use a variable. We are not allowed to use a percent sign in an equation. So if it gives us a percent, we have to change it into a decimal in order to plug it into our equation. This is a big one, okay? So I'll put a little star next to it, okay? We don't include units in our equations, so if it's a word problem, we leave out the units and then we can plug them into our answer. And finally, the word of is going to indicate multiplication. Okay, let's try a couple problems together. You're going to want to make sure you copy the problem because it's going to help you translate it. I'm going to use the hashtag for the word number. What number is 24% of 50? Okay, so what number? That tells us we have to use a variable. So I'm just going to use X. The word is, well, that translates to our equal sign. 24%. Okay, hold up. We can't just drop that in as 24. We have to change it into a decimal first before we can use it in an equation. So 24% as a decimal is 0.24. Of means multiplication, so you can drop in a multiplication symbol. And then it says of 50. Smashed together also means multiplication. So there's our simple equation. So all we have to do is solve 2400 times 50, and we'll get our answer. X equals 12. Okay, if you need to work that off to the side, you can do that. Okay, so that's a simple equation. Let's look at one that's a little more complicated. Number 2, 9 5/10 is what percent, this is gonna be a little tricky, of 25? Oops, I wrote 24 and I said 25. Let me change that. There we go. Okay, so let's do our translating. 9.5, nothing to worry about there. Drop it in. The word is, remember, that's equals. What percent? Okay. If we don't know what the percent is, I would represent it with the variable P, and I'll tell you why in just a second. Of means multiplication, 25. So 25 and then P. Don't put the variable first in an equation. So if you wrote it like this, P25, that it's not how we write it in algebra, okay? Coefficient first, then your variable, okay? Then in order to solve, the opposite of multiplying by 25 is dividing. So we divide by 25, divide by 25. Okay, yes, you do have to divide 9.5 by 25, okay? Now, when you work out that division, you're gonna come up with 38/100ths, okay? But be careful. When we solve equations, it's going to give us the percent in a decimal form. So this is the decimal form of the percent. but it doesn't want the decimal, it wants the percent. So 0.38 translates to 38%. So this one is tricky. Be careful of that. Reference it if you need to, okay? This is the big idea here. Anytime we use an equation, we're using the decimal form. If the question is asking for a percent, you have to change the decimal into a percent for your final answer, okay? All right, let's try, I don't know, one or two more. Number 3. $39 is 52% of what number? Okay, let's translate it. 39, nothing to do there, drop it down. Is, that translates to our equal sign. 52%, don't put in a 52. Percents have to take the decimal form. Of what number? That's our unknown. Use a variable, xn, okay? All right, then we have to solve our equation. The opposite of multiplying by 52/100 is dividing. Okay, 52/100 divided by itself is 1 or 1x. And 39 divided by 52/100 is 75. Okay, I know you're capable of doing that division. Here's what the setup would look like. Hop twice, then you're dividing 52 into 3900, okay? Okay, let's just do one more. Last one, number 4. 29 is what percent of 20? Okay. Here we go. 29, drop it, is, that translates to equal sign. When we don't know what the percent is, what percent? We don't know what percent. Represent it as the variable p, okay? Of means multiplication. We're multiplying this by 20, okay? Then we're gonna solve. Divide each side by 20, divide by 20, okay? 20 divided by itself is 1 or 1p, okay? Then you have to divide 29 by 20. It's not gonna go in evenly. Decimal hop 3 zeros. When we work out the division, we're gonna come up with 1.45. That's not the answer, okay? Reminder, when it's asking for the percent, this is going to be the decimal form of the percent that we're gonna get when we solve. We can't give our answer in the decimal form if it's asking for the percent. So just a reminder, in order to get 1 45/100 to a percent, multiply by 100, hop it twice, and the percent is 145%. Be careful with this one. Rewatch if you need to when you're solving your classwork. Okay, that's it. Bye.